Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to everyone joining with us today at Creative Circuit 2.0, organized by AIESEC in University of Sri Lanka, powered by KL.OK as a title partner. So as you all know, Creative Circuit commenced on the 29th of October, which is yesterday, and we will go on till the 1st of November, showcasing various aspects of the creative industry. Through this event, we are hoping to cover a wide variety of topics, ranging from film production, audio and visual effects, cinematography, game development and design, animation, special effects, makeup, and many more. So if you are a lover of any genre of the creative industry, you are at the right place. And today, we have an exclusive session just for you, which is a very unique session, which will be a very unique session wrapped around a very unique and an interesting topic made just for you. And for this, we are joined by a very special guest all the way from France. So please welcome on board Mr. Etienne Beschet. He is a game developer, a game and a computer-generated imagery artist, a tech artist, 3D animator, and a freelance video game artist. He's also the lead artist of Star Wars Redemption. So first of all, premièrement, bonjour et salutations de Sri Lanka. Et comment ça va? How are you doing?
Bonjour. Hello, I'm really pleased to be here with you, and I hope it's a solution where I could tell some of the stories I've learned while making this project. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And we indeed are so honored, and it's a privilege to have you here on board all the way from France. And we are really looking forward to this session because, as we know, this concept of game design and 3D animation and CGI, computer-generated imagery, is not a very popular, not a very famous, rather. I would say it's sort of unexposed in Sri Lanka. And however, we know that there are so much of aspirants among the youth who are willing to learn this and improve their knowledge on this. So today, I think all the insights that you'll be giving to us will be really valuable to design and CGI. So first and foremost, let me ask you, Etienne, what inspired you to become a game artist? Maybe we can start from there.
Okay. So it was like 10 years ago, maybe a little more. I was playing video games, obviously. And I was also making some modifications of them, what we call modding by the time. And I really liked how you could transform a game. And I would like to, by the time, just learn how they make all these 3D buildings, all these characters and animations. And I started learning that on my side while I was in school. I didn't learn 3D first in a 3D school. I just tried myself before, really bad. And then I made a 3D animation school where we did not make video game, or at least not 3D assets made for video games. So this was not optimized. This was not made to turn at 60 FPS. But it was all about making beautiful 3D. So I just kept this love for video game aside. And I started making Star Wars Redemption, which was not Star Wars Redemption at the really start. But I started making this at my last and third year. And then I pursued this project over the years, and it became what we know today. So
that's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. Of course, as you mentioned, if you want to become an expert of anything, you need to start out as a beginner first. So you are a clear example of that. And today, We also got to know that you are the lead artist, or rather the project leader of Star Wars Redemption, such an acclaimed movie that won the hearts of many, many people. So, how was the experience like? How was experience along the journey of creating Star Wars Redemption? So, if you could share a bit about it with us, I think it would be really great.
Okay, so just roughly, maybe before we start sharing screen and stuff like that, Star Wars Redemption is something I make aside of each of my jobs I had since I went out of school. And that's something that I always love doing when I'm jumping into Star Wars Redemption. It's like, oh, super cool. I will make a clone trooper. I will make a Star Destroyer. I just love making this stuff. And I built this step by step. So I didn't make the full game at first. And I don't plan, I never plan making something super big, because it's really, it's a big problem. It can fear you from actually making things. So I just make what I enjoy at certain points. So one day I would like to make VFX, for example, for the game. So I will dig in it and make some VFX. But next day I would like to make an environment, and I make environment just to try out something. And at the beginning, as you've said, you are always a big noob. So your first VFX is really bad. Same for the environment, same for the characters. And we will see that through some slides. But Maven at the start, which is the main character of the project, wasn't really, really beautiful. It was just a big mess. So yeah, through the years, you learn new techniques, you learn new stuff, and you pull it together, and you get something really cool in the end. But it's something you have to trust at every time, at every moment. If not, it's not motivating. It's not something you like to do. And also, what was really important with this project is that alongside my jobs, it was probably the most exciting project I had, because my jobs was not like making stylized games and stuff like this. My first one was at Kenzan Studio in Swiss, and I was actually making shots for Omega Swiss watch, and it was purely realistic. It was creatively poor, really poor, compared to what you can achieve with Fantastic Worlds. And I needed to have some way to escape with my creativity. So Star Wars Redemption was really a good way to do this, and to maintain some sort of skill set. Just because I don't want to make Swiss watch trailers all my life. I prefer working on super fantastic project like Star Wars Redemption or The Burning Descent and stuff like this. So yeah.
It's amazing. So as you said, I think when you want to create, when you want to give a successful output, of course, behind that, there are so much of efforts, so much of failed efforts, and so much of failed attempts to go there. And finally, after going through everything, you come up with a perfect output. So that's how the journey towards creativity and creative excellence happens. So of course, we know that game art design and animation requires a lot of creativity and a lot of technical knowledge. So as a person who has worked in this creative industry for years and years, so we would love to hear from you how this game art design happened and how this output was created in the game art design that you specialize in. So if you can screen share and give us a little bit of a presentation today of how this process of game art design takes place, I think that would be really helpful for our debutants, or rather the beginners who are willing to pursue this career in the future.
Okay, so let's go. Hop. So just before we start, I just want to tell you a few projects I've worked on. So these are the projects I love the most. Of course, as I've said, I worked for Swiss watches, so you won't see Swiss stuff here, just because it's not something I'm proud of. So yeah. And at my third year of school, I worked on this project, which tells the story of a young Leonardo da Vinci. And this guy, little Leonardo, went through a portal to explore a fantastic world with monsters and big creatures, dragons and stuff like this. So it was really creative, and it was really a good experience. And on this first project, which was a TV series trailer, I've started my first, I made my first 3D platformer with the same assets we've made for the TV shots. Yeah, that was the first collaboration I had with the same programmer we have now on Star Wars Redemption, just to make a little platformer called the Cryptoporter. You may see some images on my ArtStation about this, but yeah, it's quite old, but it's where it's my first project. Honestly, I really loved working on. So that was in school. Then a few years later, so this was like 4 or 5 years from now, I worked on a VR title called The Burning Descent, and I was working as a environment artist and texture artist. So I made the characters, textures, and mostly the whole environment. So this means making assets, baking them, texturing them, and also setting up a art direction for the whole project. This was pretty intense. We made it in less than 1 year with a really tiny team. We were 7 people working on this, so it was really small. So you had just one guy for the environment, one girl for the characters, one guy for the game design, etc., etc. So it was really cool to work on this. The first one, I just forgot. I was working on environment and compositing and textures also. So I make one character, if I'm correct, but you don't see this guy here. Then since 2 or 3 years, I'm happy to work on the Akitsu developers team. So I help them for support tutorials, support, just when one user has some problem with their assets, I come in and help them. And I'm also the character artist of this wonderful enterprise. So I make some puppets you can animate for free with this fantastic tool. And I'm working there just because 3 years ago, I showcased Star Wars Redemptions to the guy who made Akitsu. And since I made all my animations and posings in Star Wars Redemptions with Akitsu, this boss was really impressed by this, and he wanted, not only for Star Wars Redemptions, but partly because I did this, he decided to hire me in Nukegura, so the maker of Akitsu. So yeah, so between these 2 projects, there is some really warm bonds. And lastly, I've made Star Wars Redemption. So the demo has been published this summer. I'm planning to publish another update and the last update of the project, but just because I want to shift to another project later. But I want to improve what we've made so far. Maybe this Christmas, or maybe by February next year. So keep an eye out of this. And yeah. And Star Wars Redemption was not initially planned to be a video game. initially it was about to be a little short, just to make an homage to the TV series The Clone Wars, which I really loved. So at the beginning, it was just meant to be the trailer. And in fact, the trailer just came out this year after the game. So it's really cool how these things happen. So yeah. The trailer you've seen, we started it with Thomas Schomel. So he's the guy who animates Maven and the little droids here. I've joined him to make the trailer at the beginning of this year. And we just wanted to explore the potential of animation on all of our characters in a cinematic trailer, but we didn't know back then how to articulate the shots. We never made a scenario or a storyboard for it. So just a few drawings to tell, okay, I want to draw maybe, I don't know, a jetpack arrival or maybe a fantastic sword slash. It's just a few ideas like this we put on a Trello. And then we just pick up one we wanted to do at some point. So maybe this evening I want to make a new shot. I will see the Trello, pick up a shot, make a little drawing or two, and then start animating in Akitsu. And that's it. And at the end, a few months later, so in Juliet, I brought together all these shots and tried to make to tell some story with it. And by chance, I don't know if it's chance or, yeah, probably, the things could articulate pretty well. And so we made the trailer like this. So, yeah, how I made Star Wars Redemption. So, first of all, it's a fan project. It's not something made in behalf of LucasArts or Lucasfilm or Disney or EA or Ubisoft or something like that. It's something I just made myself, helped by a few friends, on my spare time. It's just a hobby. So, like you would like to learn a guitar or stuff like this, I made Star Wars Redemption. So it's yeah, it's just like this. It's also a learning sandbox. So when you are at work and you are making a Swiss watch, for example, and you don't like to make Swiss watch, you don't imagine to make your life around Swiss watch, but you'd like to make some concept arts and perhaps some animations, some characters, and some destroyers, and you don't know how to make them, and you can't experiment at work because you don't make this at work. So this game was the opportunity to try all these things. So at some point when you see destroyers in Star Wars Redemption, it's not because I've planned to add destroyers, it's just because at one point I was asking, okay, how could I make a Star Destroyer? And then will this fit into a trial? And it fits. So, okay, we will have Star Destroyers. And it works like this all the time. It's not like, okay, we will make 4 levels, we will have Lumberia, Genesis. No, it's not like this. It's really a feeling. So, yeah, when you want to make Jedi, you make a Jedi and stuff like this. Then it's also inspired by a lot of things. So, of course, the movies, of course, the old games. So I was a big fan of The Force Unleashed. So I wanted to capture back this feeling of a super powerful Jedi. And I also love Rayman 2, 3, which are just platformers where you catch some objects, and that's something that really speaks to me. So I wanted to have this in the project. Then I made a art book just for fun, also just because I wanted to try to make one. So you have an art book, and for the next update, we'll have a English version of this art book because I only made the French version. So a lot of people who love the project are not French and don't understand this, and you can't produce a PDF like this. So yeah, I will bring a new updated version of this. And then it's also a trailer. So for the game demo, you have environment like this. So you have well-known environments like Geonosis, like some spacecraft interiors, and some more to come. But you also have some completely created environments like Lumberia. For the little story, Lumberia has been made not because I needed to have Lumberia, but because I created an environment like this. First, I made Maven. I made a few animations on Maven, like a walk, a run, a jump, an idle. Then I brought them in Unreal, and with the help of Fantin Gislet, by the time, who was a game designer, I managed to make Maven playable. So you have your character playable in Unreal Engine, but on blank environments. So from there, I wanted to have some environments, and I started with the Venator big hangar. But a hangar is just full of metal plates, metal shields everywhere, and at some point you need to see some natural stuff. So I decided to shift on Geonosis. Geonosis was made just because I had enough of metal plates, not because I wanted Geonosis. So, and at some point on Geonosis, you only have rock and sand. You don't have any vegetables. You don't have any, vegetation. You don't have water. And it's really, it's dry. It's super dry to look at. It's, at some point your eyes need to see some green stuff. And so I decided to make Lumberia just because of this. And then once I had the base stuff for Geonosis, Lumberia, and the space environment, I could jump from one to another whenever I would like to shift from big trees to metal plates or to sand, and build up levels like this. Then you have also a cinematic trailer. So this one was made just to enjoy animation and not enjoy game design. So when you make animation for a cinematic trailer and for a game, that's not the same deal. For the game, you have to make animations quite fast. So they really they give a good feedback to the player. So when he clicks, he expects his character to just slash enemies, and he doesn't want to have a beautiful animation lasting 5 seconds. He wants to slash and have good feedback. So your animations are quite constrained by this time frame. But when you are making a trailer, it's something you have more time with. So you can develop more the character empathy. You can make some more artistic animation at some point. So we wanted to make this trailer for that. The idea of making a trailer comes from the animator of Maven, so Thomas Schumel. But the fun fact was that he did only 5 shots amongst the 25 we had. So I did all the other shots while making the demos. I'm really the guy behind most of the stuff on this project, and I would like to have this animator working a bit more on this just to help me. But yeah, it was also a great learning experience because I was not a good animator, and I still have a lot to learn. But before making the trailer, I was unaware of a lot of things. And by making each of these shots, I had a different eye on what I animated. For example, when you make a character for your game, the character has to work from each view angle. So you really turn around your character, sees if the movements are correct, and you have a lot to do on this. But the animations are really short, so it's cool. When you are animating for a trailer like this, you have only one point of view, which is your camera. This and the characters won't move with the camera always. So you have to make your movements consistent through this movement. So it's really different, and it really teaches you how to make good flows, good arcs, and stuff like this. It's really, really cool to dig in this. So then we have some of the artbooks shots. So for the artbooks, since I printed this in a pretty big book, I needed to have big resolution shots. So I used Marmoset toolbags and Unreal Engine to have gigantic shots. To be honest, they are just so big that my Photoshop was hard with my computer. So it was pretty intense. The art book consists of 96 pages, so it's really big stuff, just for a fun project. So, but I wanted to have this just to have a physical production of the project, just because at the time I made the art book, I wasn't sure about sharing the demo, because I had fears with Disney and Lucasfilm, and to be honest, I had fears the day I published the stuff, because I didn't know maybe they would just strike me down and send me a lot of lawsuits, and when you're alone, not making millions, and I still don't make millions, you don't want to dig in this and have a horrible life. So it's something you have in mind, and it's really hard to overcome this feeling. But I did this, and I'm pretty happy with the result. And for those who may wonder, I've not been contacted by any of the IP owners. So be it Disney, EA, Lucasfilm. So I think it's okay, and I hope it is, because this project is just a big love letter to what they made. So how it started. So here you have really old and in fact the very first sketches of the main character, so Maven. It was like I was watching a conference at school, and the conference didn't interest me that much. So we've all been through this. So you get to attend some presentation, and you find the time quite long, and you search a way to pass the time. And I had just a little piece of paper and a pencil, and so I just made a little draw like this to pass the time, just to pass the time. That's why I just tell here, keep a sketchbook here near you, just because drawing on a piece of paper is not super cool. And just because when you have an idea, it's really important to put this on paper. Just because it's super fast, it's easy. You just have to have a pencil and a paper, and it's okay. You don't have to start up Windows 10. You don't have to plug your graphic tablet and stuff like this. You just have to write down some stuff. It can be just a little storyboard drawing. It can be only a few words about this idea. But then when you look at this sketchbook years later, when you search for ideas, for example, it's really cool to just see this again. And don't lose an idea. It's horrible just to have a super cool idea, but nothing to fix it, to write it somewhere, and then you get something to write your idea, but you forgot it, and it's really frustrating. So keep a sketchbook near you, even if it's a poor sketchbook. It doesn't matter, but keep one near you, even when you sleep. I have one just near my bed, so sometimes I make a dream, or my brain keeps thinking about some stuff I can't fix. It can be also just for the project, I encounter some technical issues and materials or stuff like this, and the brain keeps thinking about this, and in back tasks. And when the idea pops up, it's ultra important to note it. It's really important. And then the next day you open your book and you see, okay, the solution may be this. You try it, and to be honest, more than half of the time it worked. So it's really important to know them. And when it doesn't, it's okay. It's just another step to find the solution. So it's okay. So initially the idea was just to make a kind of a female clone trooper. I think I thought about making a Jedi inside of a clone trooper just because we didn't have Omega by the time, so we didn't knew female clones could be possible. So to stay in the fandom logic, this couldn't be a guy. So and a clone, sorry. So yeah, I made some modifications to the armor. I added this little cape here, which was inspired by the Old Republic stuff, if I'm correct. Because there you have some robes like that with some armor pads on them, and I really liked the idea, so I wanted to have some too. But it was just a draw. Again, it was not. I was not thinking about, okay, I would make a big game, I would make a trailer with this, it would be awesome. No. It was just okay. Okay, we'll pass the time. That's it. Then a few months later, I looked back at this and I thought, okay, perhaps it could be cool to just try and make a full concept of it. So I was still at school, by the way, and I made just this concept just for fun again. So first things, I rarely plan the future. The only time, where I did this was for the game assets. So when I started making the game, I kind of knew I won't be able to publish it the next year. And since I was in the 3D industry for 5 years, I've seen how the technologies evolved and how you could push the game assets way further than you would 5 years back. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to make this game in 5 years, we will have, I don't know what, but we will have a technology that will allow us to make everything we can't today. So I didn't limit myself on the poly count of my assets. So if I needed to have a super dense curve on a model, I made this. So at first it lagged a little, just a little, but nowadays when you launch the demo, it's perfectly fluid and it's beautiful at the same time. So it's a risked bet, but it kinda worked. So yeah, but apart from this, I don't plan on what I will do maybe next year. So for example, the trailer was not really planned. A short film was an idea at the beginning, but it was just an idea and I never pushed in this way. When I was making the game, the goal was not to make the game, the short, the goal was to make a game. Maybe another level to the game, but not to make a trailer. And one day we wanted to make the trailer, so we have it at this time. Also, this allows you to stay open to creativity. What I mean with this is that at any time, if you have an idea and you didn't plan anything on the future, for example, because I didn't plan Maven on having a very specific armor, I could try to add different stuff. I didn't plan to have her to put her a double lightsaber. It's really a little thing, but the day I wanted to add this, I could. Just because I didn't start by settling some guidance and stuff like this. So you can change your mind whenever you want to get the best out of what you've created. Then, since the project is quite old, you might wonder how I did make all these assets, because there are really a lot of assets. You have a lot of characters, of environments, of destroyers and shots and rangers and textures, and that's a lot of files. But you don't do a lot of work every day. Okay, it's just little shots of works. So I've seen on a Instagram account, I can't recall the name of the girl, but I'm sure it was a girl. Maybe Evelyn Stockart, maybe because she's a really fantastic artist, and she gives good advice regularly. I remember I saw that working 15 minutes per day is a good way to work, to push your project. So if you work only 15 minutes each day, at the end of the month or the year, you've worked a lot of hours. And also, if you reach the end of these 15 minutes and you love what you're doing, you don't stop there. You keep going. But if you don't, okay, you stop there and you've only lost 15 minutes of your day, which is pretty small. It's okay for everyone to do this. But this is like a starter for your imagination, for your commitment on the project. And then you can spend like 3, 4, 7 hours. As long as you're inspired, keep going, and it's cool. But when you start stopping enjoying what you do, stop, get some sleep, and you will come back on it the next day. Okay. You need to make some breaks at some point. Make some running. I don't know, some sports. Go outside. It's really important just to give some rest to your brain, so you can come up with full strength, full creativity, and be better. In fact, it's not because you work 12 hours per day on a character that you will be good at it. In fact, if you work maybe 6 or 8, let's say just 6 hours, you work on your character, and then the 6 other hours, you do completely something else, preferably out of screen. So don't do playing Overwatch for 6 hours and then making character art for 6 other hours and then sleep. It's really bad. Just view some friends, visit some places, go outside, make some sports, have some breaks, and then you will come back with new ideas, and it will be cool. And it can just be going outside with a pencil, paper, and just throwing idea like this, and it's cool. It's cool, but it's just about having a break. It's really important. And also, if you don't do a thing, you miss doing the thing. It's stupid, but if you do character art all the day, you will be bored quite rapidly. But if you stop doing this for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, you will need to go back on character art, because you have a lot of idea waiting to be put on ZBrush and stuff like this. So really important to make some breaks. Also, for a project like this, it's really important to do what you love. If you don't like Star Wars, don't do Star Wars Redemption. Just don't do that. If you like Lord of the Rings, for example, go for it. Make a fun game about Lord of the Rings. It's super cool because we love doing this and it won't be a pain to dig in the project. Okay. So it's really basic, but it's really important. For any project, if you can do something you love, it's much better. Also, be curious as much as you can. You're not forced to be just a character artist or just a texture artist or just a VFX artist. I see a lot of profiles doing only VFX, for example, or only character art. And personally, after some time doing just character art, I think I learn less day by day because I'm accustomed to a certain routine. And yeah, I need to just experiment something else on environment or VFX. So don't hesitate to jump from one field to the other. It's not a big problem. And also, it's not because you do environment that you won't learn on character art. Both fields can teach you things on the other. So it's like alimenting one part, another. It's building a good circle of progression. So then also don't hesitate to Google when you have a problem. Search on YouTube. You have a lot of tutorials that exist made by several artists. You have probably nowadays tutorials for every language you can. Also good websites where you can find some pretty nice tips are Polycount, of course. I didn't mention this, but you have also techartists.org, which is a really helpful one when you have some technical stuff, technical problem, be it on Unreal, Unity, 3ds Max, Maya, and stuff like this. If you are working on 3ds Max, like me, a really good site is scriptspot.com, where you can find a lot of automation scripts for tasks you think you do too repetitively. So if you make some clicks and you think, okay, probably on scripts could do this instead of me, go on ScriptSpot, search, and probably you will see a script for you for this. Then Pinterest is really cool when you want to gather some a character. I don't do this all the time because sometimes it's also good to just pick up in your own imagination, because Pinterest also drives you, of course, to certain kind of arts. But yeah, you can use both of them. If you don't have the feeling for your character, you can search Pinterest and gather a lot of ideas. And yeah, last one is don't rip assets. Okay, it's bad because first of all, if I had ripped assets from existing games made by Lucasfilm, of course they would have sent me a cease and desist just because of that. So just for this, it's a bad idea. And then when you rip an asset, let's say you rip a character, well, you won't learn how to make the character itself. So it's cool, you will have it faster, but you won't learn to make it. So next character you will have to do, if it's a character that does not exist in the game, it will be really hard to do because you will lack of knowledge. So even if it's hard at the beginning, just don't rip assets and make them yourself. Your first assets will be ugly because you will learn how to make it. Maven at the beginning was really ugly. She was not super cool, super good looking, as you've seen. And I have other images I didn't show, but yeah, the character itself was really was a good one. But yeah, and also when you make an asset, it's you making the asset. Actually, if you make a fan art of a clone trooper for this project, for example, you will give your soul, your own artistic touch to this character. So it will have a different feeling because you've made it. It's not something someone else made and you've put in your project. So after this, which tool did I use for this project? So it's pretty uncommon because nowadays we heard a lot of Blender because nowadays I really recommend you to go with Blender because it's free, because it's fast drawing. I think they have the biggest dev community if you compare it to any other software. So I think maybe in 10 years, you won't longer have Maya, 3ds Max, and stuff like this. I think Blender will eat them. But since I was taught on 3ds Max, I kept using this. And one day I will shift to Blender. But yeah, for this project, it's all 3ds Max, and that's it. So what I've made with this was a hard surface, like you can see here, so for big star destroyers. So then I used it to just populate the side of my assets. So you can see this big Lutro hook being built. So it looks like this at the end, and it doesn't take a lot of time to build all these tiny parts. Honestly, the hardest parts even make you, when you make a big star destroyer like this, is just to get the shape right, the base shape. So it's a donut with a hole with a big ball at the center of it, but the ball has a certain size compared to the nut, and it's just a reflection like this. You have to do, and then you just populate with some shapes, and it's pretty simple thing. But yeah, the base shapes is really important. Also here, when you make such a big asset, you have to think about the pixel density. So when you will fly around this big spaceship, you don't want to see big pixels. It's kind of a bad thing. But also, since you have a big spaceship, if you see it from far, you don't want to see tilings everywhere. So you have to make some compromise. For example, in this, for this particular asset, the painted parts like this was made in a 4K texture, but you only have the base structure. And then all the detail you have there, all the tiny parts, they just consist in this, or maybe just this. And they use a 2K or 4K texture. I don't remember, maybe 2K because it was overkill to have more. And they share UVs. That's a lot of overlaps, and you just play with colors and stuff like this to make your texturing. So here, all the tiny parts just share the same UV sets with the same texture set. So you have something well textured when you're near it. Also, don't forget that you will be flying really fast. So it's not necessary to make really subtle details to each slate. So it can be quite rough also. I also used it for level art. So when you're making a Jedi temple, like here, you don't want to make every single wall, every single pillar, every stuff like this, since you will instantiate this in Unreal. So you have to think about breaking this into several pieces. So then you have this. You can just preview your level in 3ds Max like this. So each of the pillars are just instances of the main I use for Unreal, just to see, okay, the proportions are correct, the the sailing dome are okay. The arcs, the barriers and stuff like this, okay, they fit together pretty well. I need to build them and see if it works. What I really like also in 3ds Max, but it's really personal, it's UVs. But that's a really technical part. A lot of artists just don't like to do. So, but yeah, I like to unwrap stuff and place them correctly, and also when you make a environment like this that use just one single atlas texture, it's also cool to just use the UVs coordinates to texture your environment. So, for instance, all these little pillars here use a marble tile. But to texture them differently, you don't need to grab them and put them in Substance Painter, for example, or 3D Coat. You just need to make actually a little tile of marble, unwrap this little guy, and place them differently on this tile, and you will have different looking pillars. It's as simple as this. And actually, this marble texture is also used on the ground, perhaps there, maybe on some parts of the shelves. So it's really a specific UV texturing techniques. But it's quite efficient actually. Then you have also the non-destructive part of 3ds Max, which relies on modifiers, which I really like. You can really have, I don't know, just a spline and then build up a full set of cables, for example, with UVs, with specifics and wraps and stuff like this. And let's say you want to have a different one, you just edit, you just copy this, you move just one point of the spline and everything updates correctly. So it's really powerful. Also, a lot of parts here are just made based on a spline. So when I want to make, I don't know, a window here, I just draw a simple shape and then extrude and sculpt at some point my window border. Same for the arcs and stuff like this. I also use it for character design, but only when it's quite near to the art surface. For organic models, so it can also be for environment, I prefer using ZBrush. But in 3ds Max, just making cylinders, subdividing them, and stuff like this, I can achieve this kind of modeling pretty fast. So I like to use it for clones, droids, stuff like this. Then we have, of course, ZBrush, which plays a really important thing when we have something complex to design, like this helmet. Of course, this one to model from scratch in 3ds Max is not evident at all. It's better, I think, to just bring it to ZBrush where you don't think about the poly flow. You don't really care about this at first. You just sculpt shapes roughly, and then you do a retopology and bring on the perfect smoothness of the surface. But to get the good design, which is really special for this one, I think going on ZBrush is pretty effective. Also, I really like the reactivity of the toolset. So instead of 3ds Max, when you manipulate a 10 million polygons asset, it doesn't lag at all. So it's really pleasant to go through this and iterate and having an app that doesn't crash or doesn't lag just because you've added a little polygon somewhere. Then I also use it non-destructively as I do with 3ds Max. So I make quite low poly models like this. You can just go in ZBrush, start messing up around and bring this sculpty look pretty efficiently. It's also cool for creating low resolution meshes for some environment assets. So it's really specific to this. You won't do this for a character. Really, you won't. But yeah, you can take your model there, make big dynamesh of it. So you will have only one part, because here I've got the bust, the hood, and then the head. But make a dynamesh of it, and then decimate this dynameshed version of your character. So you will have something quite optimized that matches perfectly to your original shape that you can bake easily. And then you can texture this. I also use it to make some VFX at some point. Like when you want to make a splash of water, a good use of this in VFX is the gradient map. So you have a texture in black and white, and what's perfectly black will disappear first with the alpha channel, and then what's white will disappear last. So imagine you have some droplets made like this. So the start of the droplets is almost dark, and the last part you want to see is perfectly white. Then just sculpt this in the brush, capture the depth of your sculpt, and then you have your map, which is perfectly made just because you've made it in 3D and in no time. So then I use it also for stylized textures. Like when I want to make a brick wall in 3D code, I need to have a brick model. So I bring it in the brush, I sculpt this, and then I can import this brick asset into 3D code to make a 3D brush, 3D capture of my brick, and build my wall like this. So there we come to 3D code. So the good point with this was the hand paint PBR. So in Star Wars Redemption, I don't aim to have perfect metal, perfect roughness, perfect matching to realistic materials, because this game is not realistic at all. So it's not it won't make sense. So here, what I would rather try to approach was the asperity of the surfaces. So I want to feel the dirt on my characters. So for instance, this guy is made of plastic, a lot of plastic, some paint here, okay? And if you look at each of the intersections parts, like this, you can see like some dirt, some like the helmet is not really clean. And it's just because I've brought a layer here called dirt, where I intentionally degrade the texture. I bring some mud, some dirty stuff that has a full roughness. Okay, it's completely rough, it's not metallic, and then it gives the artistic look of the asset for Star Wars Redemption. So then you will have metals that are partly non-metals, just because you have dirt on it, and dirt is not something metallic. So at some point it's quite realistic, but yeah. And I really keep an eye on the material richness. So I don't want to have a perfectly plastic clone. It's not interesting to look at. I rather have like a helmet with some metallic parts, some painted parts that will maybe reflect more or less, just to have a contrast between surfaces, in addition to colors and normals. So it's really important to keep this in mind. I also like the reactivity of this software. So when you paint, you don't wait for it. Even if you have a big pile of layers, it's okay. You can paint like this. It's really cool. You have pretty neat tools for making UVs on rock assets. So like I've said, when I make some organic assets for my environment, I decimate that in the brush. So I get a triangulated mesh that's not evident to unwrap. But in 3D code, what's cool is that you can define one starting point and one endpoint for a scene. And then it will calculate the fastest way to go from one point to another. And you can subdivide this path to arrange this and decide, okay, it should go there, 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 there. You can make your scenes pretty fast. You also have a pretty cool art freedom, I guess. That's because when you want to paint some blue, some green, and stuff like this, you don't have to create smart materials layers just to give this color if you want. So here, just make a layer like you do in Photoshop, and you paint what you want in it. It can be normals, it can be roughness, littleness, colors. You can do everything you want in each layers, and it's really, really important to me. You have the mesh to brush system, which is really insane. So this basically allows you to import an OBJ and make a brush with it. So you can import the same, for example, a brick, like I did here, okay? So you've got this brick that was the same, actually. So I just imported it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. And then I had like 6 brushes. You can select all these brushes together and then paint with a single stroke each of these bricks and make your brick lines for your wall. It's really interesting because it lets you decide how your bricks would look like. So you can design them in ZBrush, import them as alpha brushes, and then you can decide where you want to put them. And since you are painting actually on just UVs, if you've made some overlaps, like here, you can see it repeats from here to there. Well, when you will paint, it will perfectly tile. So you really master what you are making there, and it's really pleasant to use. Then you can combine some brushes, as I've mentioned. You can break the curvature usage. So first of all, you have a pretty interesting curvature of maps. Like it's combining a local curvature with a defined distance and a long-range curvature. So it allows you to push your smart materials really further than just edges, which I don't like to see. So for each of the assets here, I really like to have painted edges. So I don't let the smart material do all the stuff, but with this curvature map logic, you can do pretty interesting stuff at the beginning. You have also super fast in smart bakes. So even without the RTX NVIDIA card, 3D Coat was just the fastest to bake a ambient occlusion or a curvature. It's really, really, really fast. Then you have also a way to batch export your texture. So when you make a modification, you can send it right away to your application of choice. And it's pretty low priced. About the price of the license. It's not a subscription based. You just pay it once and then you have it. So it's pretty cool for someone like me who just want to work outside of the job. I can't pay something each month like this. It would be too heavy to support. So yeah, and it really has a 2D painting feeling. It's not super technical. It's really artistic. So I really enjoy working with 3D to texture methods. Then we have Akitsu. So this is the software we use for animating our characters, but also rigging and skinning them, just because it's much more evident, easy, and I have a lot of words for this software. Even before working with the team, I was impressed by how simple it is compared to a Blender, for example, or 3ds Max, just to get a character animable and with a decent rig. For example, here, if I want to move an arm, so I may show you this here. Hop. If I want to move an arm here, I just have to click on my character and it will select automatically the joint accordingly. And then I can move my character like this. So I don't have a lot of controllers around my character, only the IK and reverse foot, but that's pretty much it. And then it's just about clicking on the skinned parts, and that's it. So you can animate with almost your final character. So of course you don't have lighting and super neat rendering features, but you have a clean viewport, and it's really, really, really cool to use. It's also very post-based. It's for keyframe work, so you can do some motion capture stuff in it, but it's really oriented for keyframes. And it's really made like a 2D animation program. Like here, when you make a keyframe, you keyframe every joint of your character. If you want to have some delays and some part of your character, you can extract them in layers, like here, and see the whole animation like a music score. It's really cool just to see the rhythm. It's really neat, I think, with different colors and stuff like this. It's really pleasant to watch. And yeah, it's also pretty reactive, so you don't wait for a play blast to see actually what your animation will be. You just have to play and you will see your animation at the desired frame rate. So for instance, on the trailer, we worked in 24 FPS, so we saw it in 24 FPS. But for the game, we worked in 144 FPS, which is much higher. And Akitsu displays the animation at 144 FPS. It's pretty cool. Also, whenever you want to make your movement, you can rely on ghosts, which are really, 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 really cool. Just to see, okay, how my pelvis evolves through my animations, how each of the parts evolves through it. You can decide how many ghosts you want before, after. You can also isolate some parts if you mask a few vertices. Well, you have a lot of ways to animate in Akitsu pretty well. Also, something I really liked for the project itself and for most game projects is that the way you can manage your animations through the same file. So for instance, the character of the project uses a lot of animation cycles. So you have some attacks, walks, runs, dashes, idles, and stuff like this. And you don't want to have just one timeline with everything attached within the same time. It's really hard to work like this. So here you can simply make a folder if you want for attacks, for example, and then put one animation sample, make your first attack, then make a second animation sample, make your second attack. And once you're okay, you just export one FBX, and that's it. When you import it in Unreal will read, okay, in your FBX you have 10 animations or more. It will split up perfectly and you will have access to all of these animations. And whenever you want to update one of these animations, just export it back and refresh it in Unreal. It's updated. So it's pretty efficient to work with. You don't have a lot of controllers, so you may miss some really fancy stuff like Python or Maya scripting language. But honestly, I didn't need this at all. Even if I had, that's something really bonus, really gadget. In order to achieve your animation, you don't need this. So it's quite okay. And also you can animate whatever you want. You just have to have one triangle and 3 vertices at least. And then you make what you want. So you can do spaceships, you can do droid cars if you want. You can do what I did with this, flying mushrooms. Did this last day. So it's really cool to do. And the rig itself remains quite light and readable. So you don't have a lot of points everywhere to watch at. So it's really fun. Then for renders, I used 2 engines. So depending on the subtleness I wanted to achieve, I choose Unreal Engine 4 or Marmoset Toolbag. Marmoset just because you have really sharp lights and really efficient UI. So you're not here to make a game, just here to make render. So you have to make your light, to place light. It's really easy to do. And the fourth version of Marmoset just added really interesting toolsets, like a way to orient lights around your normals and get really interesting lighting in the few seconds without the need of turning on your models and place lights like this. So it's really cool. And you also have the RTX support, which is pretty well integrated. So you can see it being calculated here. But once it's calculated, you get pretty nice image of your final shot, and it's really amazing. For the shots, I only rendered directly my images and put them in the trailer, and it was already cool. So yeah, you can also use it, of course, for portfolio showcase. So if you make a super cool character, using Marmosets is a really, really interesting way to showcase the quality of your work. You can integrate this in ArtStation. You have some viewers. You can then, in this viewer, see the normal maps, the roughness, and each of these maps pretty easily. You can use it for texture baking also, which is pretty interesting for ambient occlusion. Since now it uses the RTX video card, it's pretty fast. And also for the normal maps. And for the normal maps, Marmoset is just, I think, the best we have on the market. It's just super simple made. It's well designed, in fact. So you don't search the tools everywhere, and it's really pleasant in the UI part of the software also. And since you have texture baking, you can also make some texture transfers. So if at some point, let's say you've made a brick and you want to make a wall of bricks, you can import this brick, a plane, make a wall of brick with this one, and then bake this wall on your plane and get a new texture. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So again, for cinematic shots, you can load big assets. Since you have RTX now, it's really easy to bring these big Star Destroyers with all the details. Even if they are far, far away, Marmoset can handle them pretty nicely. It imports also cameras, so you can really make your shots, make it so the way you want. Then you import this in Marmoset, and you have the same results, but with gorgeous lights, and yeah, it's really amazing to use. So yeah, and just here for this shot, just because we had the RTX, when you push up the emissive light for this big blast, it lights the scene automatically. So you don't have to put lights all the time. Of course, you have one light for the moonlight or the sunlight here, but all the red impacts are made automatically when the turret shots, and it's really, really cool to use. Lastly, we have Unreal Engine, of course. So I use it for the game, obviously. So here you have some example of environments, some that are not playable yet. So this is not yet in the game. This is not too. Yeah, but yeah, that's the engine we use for this project. I personally like it just because when you start Unreal Engine, you already have something beautiful to look at, to explore, and then you have a really powerful, I guess, tool set. When you make materials shaders, when you want to make some really special stuff like this, it's pretty easy and permissive. So, yeah. And as I've said earlier, we use it also for cinematics. Just because Marmoset can't handle VFX and specific shader tasks, I can't make everything I would like to render in Marmoset. So for this shot, for example, I needed to have some specific fog on the ground, as well as some effects of sand, which are quite particular to just look right. So I wanted to just put it in Unreal Engine. A cool tips about this, about rendering, be it in Marmoset or Unreal Engine, is that you should most of the time avoid using directional lights and omni light. If you want to make a omni light, most of the time you can simply get a spotlight, reverse it, and you have an omni light. And in fact, it's built like this. So, but often you just want to bring lights somewhere in your shots. For example, here, this part is dark, but this part is unlighted. Also, this part is unlighted, this part is slightly unlighted, and it's just because I've put spots on this precise position. This allows me to just decide how much light I want to bring on this particular area. And when you make a render of a character, for example, it's more interesting to have just a light on the most important parts. So, for example, you want to see the face of your character, maybe the bust, but not the foot. Except if you've made pretty interesting foot and pretty uninteresting head, most of the time it's just the head. So put a spotlight there and then just fade the light progressively to have shadows on the foot, and it's okay. Maybe I have some example of this. So yeah, for instance, there you have this part more lighted than this one. Okay, same for this. So you can use different spots if you want. And yeah, that works the same for environment. For instance, here you have more light in the archives books parts where you want to the player to look at. And then if you have some parts you want more dark because you don't want the player to go, then you leave it in dark and it's okay. So that's it for the show. In your case, you can follow me there if you want. Thanks for being there. If you have questions, it may be the time. I'm gonna maybe stop screen share. What do you think? Yeah.
Yes, Etienne, I think that was truly a very interesting session. So thank you so much for inspiring us, and thank you so much for bringing out all of this information, especially on game design and animation as well. Just one last question. I'm sure that our audience has a number of questions, but we thought of getting them sent to us so that maybe we could send to you and get the queries answered due to the time constraints we do have today. But when going through your presentation, I think that was very informative. And of course, you covered starting from the scratch on how you started and to the software that you use and how you seek inspiration. And also what kind of tips that we need to adhere to when we are game designers, also animators. So I think you covered a very large and diverse area relating to game art design and animation. Just one last question before we wind up. So if I may ask you, what is your favorite out of the two? What would you definitely say? I'm pretty sure this could be game art design, but what would you have to say?
I don't know. It varies. Maybe it's just it changes all the time because when I make character art, for example, I do character art for a lot of days, and then I have enough of it, and I go to VFX. Oh, okay, VFX is super cool, and then VFX, okay, but maybe character art. I hesitate between environment and character art just because environment is really technical. Something really technical because you have to think about a lot of stuff. And when you make character art, it's more about how you shape out your characters. So I think it's more simple. It's less technical, so you're more free with your crazy mind of artist. But yeah, I don't know. And I quite like animation, so yeah, it's difficult.
I see. Difficult. So, Etienne, I think before we wind up, maybe you can leave a final message, one last message for our audience today who are aspiring artists and who want to be maybe game designers one day and who want to try out animation. What is the final message that you would like to leave with them?
Let me think. Never give up on your passion. So yeah, if you like making animation, even if a lot of people tell you that you suck at animating, if you love it, keep doing it, and one day you will be super good and awesome.
That's one amazing piece of advice. I think the audience who have gathered here today, what we want to give you, the message that we want to leave with you from Creative Circuit 2.0 is that never give up on your passion. And if you saw in the session today, Etienne, who joined with us today, explained to us how he never gave up on his passion and how he dedicated to his passion and created amazing art through it. So I think this is such an important message and a life lesson to all of you, not only pertaining to game design or animation, but everything in general in life. So with that, Etienne, I think it's my duty to thank you so gratefully on behalf of AIESEC in University of Srichayabardhanapura and on behalf of Creative Circuit 2.0. Thank you so much for joining with us today and giving us all your amazing insights and the creative inputs to us to improve our knowledge on this amazing sector. So thank you so much for joining with us, and we wish you the best of luck for all your future endeavors.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you so much. So with that privilege of having all these, personalities, great personalities coming out from all around the world to deliver you great insights on creative aspects of the creative industry. We'll be moving on to another session really soon. So until then, I'm Tashani Baligamage, and let me take my leave from Creative Circuit 2.0 and see you with the next session that we will be starting immediately. So thank you so much and stay tuned towards the next session. Thank you.